We are still 5 minutes away from starting, but we're already live. I love it. I love to be prepared. Everybody, if you're watching us, come join. We're gonna start very soon. 5 minutes, and we're gonna start chatting. Probably. Or maybe people are gonna be late. We'll see.
Yeah, call it a coffee break between before the session.
Yeah, there is an optional coffee break before the session. Exactly.
I'm gonna go find us on Twitch and on YouTube.
So we are live now on YouTube and Twitch. So it's okay. We can work.
So it seems that it's switching the... We're seeing just one speaker, I think, at a time on stream. At some point I saw multiple. Can you just make sure that you have the gallery, no, the speaker view enabled? Not, perhaps we can have like two speakers at the same time in this stream or more.
Hey guys.
Hello, Dean.
How you guys doing?
Pretty good, thank you. Oh, okay, now, yeah, we can see now too.
Oh, Zopal, you look so nice.
You know, I didn't know what everyone else is gonna do. I can easily take this off. I don't want to throw everything off.
This is me, man. Sorry.
Nice to see you. No worries.
No, we're all...
You see who is the boss right now, yeah?
Gotta make up for my lack of development skills somehow.
Yeah, I always heard dress to where you want to be, not where you at.
Hello everybody joining.
Hey, Matryoshka.
Hi, Zopal, you look so handsome in this suit. Look at you. Wow.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Yes.
Sanchi, is it going to be the same Zoom link for every form from now on, or is it going to change links every time?
I think it might be this link for the forums, but I'll get Alex to respond. Sure. Alex, basically your view, I think, depends what we're gonna see on the screen, on the stream. Also, I'm not sure if how many people we're gonna have. We should have most right now.
And is the Jesus?
Jesus? Yes, we saw him a moment ago. But
yes. Let me. Hey guys.
We need your video.
I'll post it over to some Discords too to see if people are interested.
Hi, Salil. Oh, he cannot hear us. Hi, Jean.
Hello, Savi. Hello, Jean.
What's up, everyone?
There's nothing in here then.
Hey, Jean.
How's it going?
Hey,
How's it
Jean.
going? We're gonna wait a few more minutes for.
Let me also post this on
Hi
Discord.
guys. How can I mute everybody? Except
We can. So we're
Can you
we're
do
gonna.
this? Can you manage this?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna handle it.
Great. So you are moderator.
So also sorry.
You are the power here.
Also sorry, guys. I'm gonna turn off the videos of all non-speakers when we're gonna get to questions and you're gonna get on stage. We're gonna label your videos just to make sure that we have it a little bit easier managing everything. Hello, Mubashar. And who else do we need on stage? Jesus, I'm gonna need you to enable yourself the video. I don't know if I can. I disabled now everybody to be able to. Please just
Yeah,
the host.
we need your video so we can pin you.
Yeah, you need to stay.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're disappearing from the pin. And
oh, I see.
I'm going to keep everybody the same. So we're missing Alisher, I guess. Rome, sorry, I'm gonna turn off your video. D, we still need your video. So we're missing Hunter and Alisher.
Trying to track him down on Discord.
Hunter posted that he couldn't attend, so I don't know if that changed. I don't know.
Okay, so if he's not going, then it's just Alisher.
We have, I think, 5 minutes more to prepare. So let's wait. If the one show up, you can start.
Sure, let's do that.
So not that anyone cares, but Portugal made through to the next stage.
Congratulations!
I'm
my
happy.
team sadly, I hear, didn't have that honor.
Oh, yeah, but you know, it was crazy because we in the group we were with France and Germany, everybody thinking only 2 will go, and at the end, well, Portugal, France, and Germany ended up passing. Luckily, Portugal in best third. So because some of the third qualified would get I don't know the name in English for it, but they would get back into the game. So we were lucky this time.
No, congrats. Sounds good.
I'm happy. You know, we in Portugal we love football, man.
I'm sure it sounds great. Guys, I disabled the ability for people to unmute themselves, so if you're sure that there are no feedback loops and that kind of stuff, I'm gonna re-enable it right now. So just like for the speakers, feel free to unmute yourself. I don't think you're gonna be making background noises. If necessary, I'm gonna mute yourself and then ask you to unmute. No worries. We're gonna have an open discussion. So like, let's be gentlemen towards each other and just feel free to speak openly. Daniel, please, if you can maintain your video feed. I'm not sure what is going on, that it's switching off. That would be good. And let me just check what happens on the stream when you just disappear on the stream if you don't have the video. But yeah, Let's just wait 1 or 2 more minutes.
Could you unlock it, please? Just because I'm on my phone and I was jumping to another window. I didn't know that we could stop the video, but I do now.
Yeah, when you lose the focus, sadly on the mobiles, when you lose the focus, it switches off the video.
Yeah, I know that now. Thank you.
No worries. Well, you can also keep yourself unmuted if you want, because that's another thing that I'll. Oh well, I mean, I'm gonna just basically enable both, so like people can do it if they want to. Just have in mind that you're gonna end up on the stream, so please be civil. And yeah, and we're gonna start soon. Okay, guys, Alex, I don't know, what do you think? Can we start?
Yeah, I think we can start, and if someone will join or share or find it later, it will be fine.
Would you like to add something at the very beginning as the organizer?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for joining this panel discussion. I'm very appreciate that you are so passionate about BitClout and that you are supporting not only CloudForum but BitClout the whole by joining this session, because you will have a meaningful discussion today, and maybe you will find some new ideas and new ways to make this place better for us. So thank you very much, and I'd like to give the floor to Kanchi to continue this conversation.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrzej Tuchołka, actually, but to make it easier for everybody to remember my name, I go by Kanchi on BitClout and in many other social media. I would like to welcome you all to the I guess the first panel discussion of the development community on BitClout, and this panel is titled "Building New Reality," and I think building part is what we are all passionate about and what we want to talk about today. We have amazing guests today. I'm gonna randomly just go through the order of appearance on my screen. I'm not sure how that goes on the stream, but I have here with me Zopel, who is a little bit more on the, let's say, on the support side rather than just coding, but also working on software projects and building the new reality, so to speak. I have also Zach Med with us, who's a blockchain developer from different also backgrounds. Check this guy out, very interesting profile. Also Mubashar Iqbal, who's I guess very deeply embraced in development and building products and coding our future. Then Salil, that I think I don't have to introduce to everybody, who has created one of the most popular tools on BitClout. And last but not least, the Jesus, Daniel from Portugal, who is, as you all can see, really happy about his team winning the match and progressing in the Euro Cup. But most importantly, he's more on the systems and networking side, and also very much passionate about the blockchain technology. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. And now, perhaps going backwards, you would like to introduce yourselves, and so if just to keep the same line, DJs, if you'd like to say a few words. Hello, please be brief. and we'll finish the introductions by going through all of you.
Briefly, my name is Daniel Jesus. That's my last name. I started with the systems management, administrations with Windows, Linux, and also OS X, so Apple. Because early in my career I worked at an advertising company, but a few years in, and I moved to the network side, and that's where I spend most of my professional life. Working on telecoms or big telecoms or for big telecoms. And then I also moved to the enterprise side, so side working for big companies, doing the network, designing, architecting, monitoring, maintaining all stack the whole stack in regards of the network. And in about 2011, I heard about Bitcoin in an IRC channel. I don't know if everyone is familiar or not, but there was this networks before that was the Internet Relay Chat, mostly known, most people knew the client Mirk, but that's where I heard about Bitcoin in 2011, and since then I was very interested on the technology, and yeah, I've been a consumer of crypto for a long time, and now I'm on BitClout, so that's it.
Thank you very much. Salil, would you like to give us your brief pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey everyone, my name is Salil. My project on BitClout is ProsperCloud, and the goal here is to bring transparency and help creators basically build stuff and get support from coin holders. So, trying to bring transparency and somewhat trust onto the platform through data. So that's my project. I've been in the startup world for a few years. I'm actually a crypto noob. I wasn't much into crypto before BitClout, so it's almost embarrassing to say that. But this was, my first foray. I've obviously, like everyone, heard about crypto, but didn't do much in that space. And just going back a little bit, my background is in management consulting. So this BitClout actually brought everything together, my background pretty well. So love technology and programming, did that, growing up. In fact, never coded for a job really, but hacked projects since I was 10 or 12. And finance and payments and money movement was the area I focused on for my job. So BitClout was a great, combination of those two things. So yeah, that's what brought me here.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Mubashar, would you like to give us a few words about yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am, I guess, what you call a full stack developer. I like to just hack on projects of all kinds. So as I find a problem or a space that just interests me on BitClout, I build a solution for it. I think I posted yesterday. I'm already up in double digits in terms of little projects that I've built for BitClout specifically. Things like BitClout Follow, BitClout Recap, Clout Email. Working on club rooms right now with Daniel Kemp, who asked me to apologize that he can't be here as well. I started coding just playing around on computers when I was about 8 years old, and it stuck. I really like it. I like taking an idea and just creating things out of nothing. And I feel like crypto is the same. It's an empty space, and all of a sudden you've got a ledger that has lots of information in it. And so out of nothing, we have trust. And so I love this kind of idea, and I love just kind of exploring that. And it's kind of led me to BitClout, which kind of combines the whole idea of crypto and social ledger and social media as well, which I think is really interesting.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Zach, would you like to give us your quick pitch?
Thanks, Andre. Thanks for you guys being here, and thanks for organizing it, Alex. I'm a full stack blockchain developer out of Fargo, North Dakota. I kind of recently graduated from a full stack development engineering academy. It's kind of an intensive 5-month full-time thing, so got a really good base on full stack development. Since then, I started working for a very small company out of California. We're developing a custom kind of proprietary patented, we're trying to integrate a patent into a proprietary blockchain for like an enterprise use kind of FiTech insurance kind of stuff. Building on Substrate using Rust. So that's been fun. And blockchain or BitClout has quickly become my new kind of hobby, trying to make it into kind of a side job kind of thing, testing out different stuff and seeing where I fit in best. Quickly found the Not Your Average call and became friends with a lot of people there. So a lot of developers come through, and it's exciting to be with you guys here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Zopel, would you like to give us a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sounds good. My name's Zach. I've been going by Zopel on BitClout. I'm an IT recruiter. I've been doing that for just over 5 years now. And I had to start in experiential marketing before. So I always had that social aspect to it. And I found that that was big in recruiting as well. Talking to people, understanding what they were working with, what they were looking for, and really connecting people, working with our clients to help build out teams. And so that it's sort of, I've found a really natural connection on BitClout. Part of it's obviously the social media aspect for it, but in such early times, being on Not Your Average call, just being around the platform, I connected with a few people here previously, just interacting. I found that it was natural as a recruiter to want to figure out what everyone was working on and try to connect people where they can, be aware of what projects were happening. And I've fallen in love with BitClout. I do see a lot of potential in where everything's moving, and wanting to be aware of what's happening in the space and trying to make those connections. So yeah, I found it quite interesting so far, and happy to be a part of something like this.
Thank you very much for that intro. Now let me just give you guys a few words about myself. As I said, my name is Andrzej. I'm a software developer turned architect turned entrepreneur, something like that. So you could say I'm a technology entrepreneur, but I do a lot of code, I do a lot of systems design, and let's say my career started in consulting. I was building workflow and process management systems, risk management, balanced scorecards, controlling systems, you name it. Basically, management consulting needed a bunch of tools, and I was one of the developers that was supporting that push. And after that, I had the chance to participate in the first wave of social networks. I was building 20, which was the Spanish social network. So that was the late first decade of the century. Once that got sold to a big corporation, I moved on and decided to try my chances in the video on demand platforms, which were just starting to arise then at the beginning of the previous decade. And then later I ventured into something that I call grassroots innovation. So basically I managed to become an independent technology dude that is creating different innovative startups using his own startup studio. And after doing quite a few of those, I stumbled upon BitClout, and I figured that it's matching so well what I want to do with having people empowered and being able to build the innovation from 0 to 1 in a much easier and much more accessible way for especially young people who don't have the knowledge necessarily how to use all the tools that are available on the market. So this is also, I'm trying to get involved a little bit more in the, let's say, community building activity also here on BitClout, and I'm very happy to have all of you guys from so many different backgrounds, from so many different parts of the world, talking about the future that we're all building. Thank you very much for coming, and let's start talking about the about the topics that I hope at least that you guys had a chance to look at. I also posted those topics on my profile. If somebody wants to review them and see what they're about, just check out Kanshi's profile. There's one post that contains all of the topics that we're going to be covering here. Without further delays, let's jump right to it. Distributed social networks. What the hell? What are we really talking about? Like, why? There's already plenty of social networks you can choose from. You know, it's free market. Why do we need to have some completely new class or a completely new approach to social networking? What's the deal? What do you guys think? Who would like to go for this topic?
I can jump in there quick, Kanchi. I think the main advantage to this platform in particular, and kind of things that are natural social networks within social networks that are emerging from this. For instance, very easy example, the Nacho Average community. It's quickly becoming its own kind of network within a network. And as people kind of try to tune out the noise, for instance, on Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, all these things have so many things that you're not concerned about, that you're not interested in. These kind of niche markets, niche networks that people are organically forming are going to be huge in the future. And we're seeing that happen in real time on BitClout right now. I was watching go ahead, Crunchy.
I'm thinking, because it's interesting that you say about Facebook. I've heard people saying that, okay, so now with BitClout, every node operator can be the next mark of the future. And I think perhaps this is something, like that people didn't actually have enough control over their communities, that they have been building on those social networks, and the value of those communities is so large now that we essentially need a new class of tools. I mean, look what happened here is that people are not even transitioning from other social networks, but the power of the communities is very strongly visible, right, Salil?
No, you're absolutely right. So I think the whole community power is very tightly integrated in BitClout. I think the biggest advantage for me that I see it, when internet started back in the 90s, it was mostly an efficient way of sharing information. Commerce was an add-on later on, right? Initially, it was purely you send an email, you send a message, you get information through a website. It was hardly about sending value through the pipes, through the internet. And with BitClout, I think it's one of the more sophisticated attempts to actually tightly integrate commerce within social network. And if you think about payments in some sense, it's inherently social. You always go from payments happen between two people, right? So I think this is the beauty, in my mind, this is the beauty of BitClout, where commerce is actually not an afterthought on a social network. Commerce is tightly integrated. Like even small diamond actually means transfer of value, right? And then we all are aware of the coin price and the bottoming curve. So I think that's the newness factor for me.
Definitely, I agree. Guys, feel free to unmute yourself when you would like to speak. I think that's a good way to proceed. Daniel,
I would just go into, just even taking the BitClout part aside, but addressing just the decentralized, the need for a decentralized network. It mostly goes into censorship. That is the biggest reason, even though I would understand that most people don't even care for that. So just being decentralized is not a reason for everyone to adopt it. But also not having, now going back to BitClout, not having a price is enough for mass adoption. So it will come from community building, this kind of project, and also, it will come from community building and from development coming in. So, developer adoption at early stages, at any stage, it's crucial for anything to be better. But to talk about the decentralized nature, it's mostly because of that, and because anyone can read on it. But one other big reason for it is being open source, like most of the blockchains are. It will allow for people to integrate it with services that we don't even think about now. being an open source, decentralized, not controlled by any one network, layer one, let's say, in which you have, apart from the social engagement, you also have this creator coin thing. But that's just something on top of the cake, because the cake is the decentralized blockchain network that in this case is more focused on the social interactions.
Mubashar, would you like to add something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, the sort of advantages of being decentralized is access to information, right? Like who's doing what, when are things being done, who's posting what, all of that stuff is now not owned by a corporation, it's now owned by everybody who's taking a part in the actual social network itself. And to me, it's not just the posts that people are making that has value here. Like when you go on Twitter and Facebook, it's not the tweets only that have value. Who's following who, who's friends with who. That social graph in many ways is way more valuable than the actual posts themselves. And I think the fact that as people making things on top of BitClout, as people are building applications on top of BitClout, being able to access that social graph because it is decentralized and distributed just saves us a huge amount of work in terms of, let's say we're building our own application on top of it. We'd have to rebuild the social graph every time we build an application because it's already decentralized and we can kind of tap into it however we kind of have to. So I think that to me was one of the things that really appealed to me about BitClout moving forward, is that not just BitClout.com, which is obviously the sort of reference implementation of a social network on top of the BitClout blockchain. Any social application that we build on top of this blockchain is instantly going to get access to all of that information that's already been entered into the blockchain. So as we build out, for example, as we build out club rooms, we instantly know who's following who's purchased whose coins, because all of that information is out there. It's already part of the blockchain itself because of the decentralized aspects of the platform. If we were trying to build this stuff on top of Twitter, yes, we might be able to get access to it, but the APIs might be restricted. We might not be able to access everything. And so, so I think that's why it's important that we get access to all this stuff, and that becomes way easier in a decentralized in a decentralized architecture.
Definitely. I would just before coming back to you, Salil, I just wanted to add one thing, is that again I think the concept of this decentralized graph or network of nodes that actually give any unlimited power to the community owners, with the help of developers, of course, to readapt and to shape this social tool that they have at their hand. And people, now that we see the social networks fully developed, people now realize how powerful that tool is, and that it doesn't make sense to delegate it to somebody else anymore, right? Especially when we have frameworks that make it so easy to launch these social communities. Salil, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Daniel and Mubs touched on this, right? Earlier, information was where, the value was, and that was behind, locked doors. And now everybody has access. Obviously, you need the development tools to access that information, or to actually unlock that data and turn it into value. But absolutely. And I'm sure we'll touch on this later. So I think there's a whole pendulum, right? Like if you think about this, there was censorship, there was restriction to information, and the pendulum was almost on one side, with large organizations owning that kind of information. Decentralized world, honestly, or absolutely removes those barriers from us, but there are some challenges also that come along with it, right? So as we move forward, we need to all, be mindful on how, as a community, we talk about it, or we deal with those challenges. Like one simple example would be child pornography, right? What happens, right? Like if it's on the chain, it stays on the chain, and like, would nodes at that point make a decision or not to, pull that information, right?
Salil,
or, other propaganda. Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, but just to clarify, right now, images are not posted on chain.
True.
Images are not on chain, and as far as I know, they are not supposed to be, and not even for the NFTs. But we still don't know exactly how they are going to do it. But right now, that's when they made the change from to their own hosting. They added the report button, because now
Yeah.
they were hosting the images, so they were liable for them, and that's why that
Yeah.
happened. So they could still, they own that data. It's on a normal hosting where they could
Correct.
delete. But that is a very valid point. If for instance the NFTs that are coming in,
Sure.
if they put it on the chain, because then someone could do what you were saying. Please go on.
Correct. But image is one example, and I think your point is absolutely right. Right, image is one example that I was using because it evokes emotions. But hate speech, right, or other kinds of like text, which lives on chain right now.
Yeah.
So we need to absolutely think about it. Right now, luckily, it's been 3 months in. I don't think we've had issues with that. But obviously, as there's mass adoption, we'll all have to deal with those things as well.
Let me, if I could just pick up about on that, because Salil, this is one of the things that has concerned me from day two. I think if you see my second post on this network is about that.
Okay.
Because initially well, the thing here is indeed because someone at some point imagined that tomorrow I go to bitclout.com and I post your social security number, and I post your bank account number, and I post your telephone number, your full name, your address. Nobody could do anything about it. It could never be deleted. It could be hidden on bitclout.com. I could be blacklisted, whatever. Sure. It could be even banned on others, but anyone at any point could retrieve that data. So I think that is a very important thing for the future. And, I've been discussing this with a few people, including seed investors, because there is one system. The thing is that is not fully tested yet. It's all theoretical. It's all proven with the functions and the mathematics around it. But it is possible to delete a piece of data from a blockchain without impairing it, without corrupting it. But this would be something that at least 51% of the nodes would need to adopt.
To agree, yeah.
So this is something that most likely would be possible to be implemented through a CIP. When CIP, I believe it's when CIP is, for proposals to be made, people like you, me, and anyone that has these kind of concerns or any ideas could be posting and could force the dialogue with the dev team, and they would have either to appease us with reasoning or yield to what the community wants. So let's see what happens.
What do you guys think is like this? I mean, since we ventured into talking about blockchain features, what do you think is like this this next step? Maybe post NFTs, because that would be an obvious answer. Maybe post NFTs. What is this cool feature that we could build, even as a community, to support creators in general, the positive behavior that we would like to promote within the network? What would be that that feature, at least? Do you have any opinion about it?
I would say reputation. So, a front end should have a reputation system that is given and taken by the community, that has bot avoidance techniques not to be influenced, such a reputation not to be influenced. It would have to come from something like verifying that each person is a person. There are ways for that, let's not get into the discussion unless you guys want to. But there are ways to automate that even, and to go through a process that at the end you get the result that you want. That person is a person, so that person would be able to participate in the reputation given and taking of community members. I think that is key for a lot of things. And then these algorithms, for giving and taking reputation would play along in many things going down the road, I would say.
I think it's also an interesting question how to distribute it, how to make it, non-authoritative. And I've heard some ideas floating around about something called affiliations, in a sense that following the idea of node development and communities that are within there, and the reputation-related dynamics of those communities. Because again, like every community is going to have a different way of defining reputation and different ways of interpreting it, and so I think we're also at the forefront, going back to the title of our panel, building new reality. Is this? I think we can ask ourselves, like, what are the features that we want to build for that new reality? Because we also had this discussion before. We had this take quite a few times. We had the internet, who was supposed to provide us all with the distributed nodes, but those were servers, right? That didn't work out very well, and we have everybody back on the back on the centralized model. Then we had the social networks, again the same thing. Applications got locked up in all of this very much. Welcome, Alisher, to our conversation. So what do you think? Perhaps is this enough, or perhaps we should try to find ways, to make it more permanent. And reputation, I think, is one of the great examples. But I'm curious to hear more. Mubashar, would you like to start?
Well, actually, I think Opal should speak because he hasn't spoken in a while. So let's hear what he has to say first.
No worries. I think that's an interesting point as we talk about reputation, because I think most of us can agree it's a real person on the other end of a page, and it's whether they're a bad actor and what their intentions are in coming into this community. They can set up accounts that aren't necessarily themselves, and then we get into multiple accounts. So I think BitClout at first did try to take this into consideration, trying to have you link an email, verify with a phone number to get starter BitClout. And we have seen it sort of transform. So I think there will be that kind of reputation and what you're in the platform for, if you're trying to really establish yourself within the community, how we can build that out. We've seen some of those verified profile verificated pages trying to be a stopgap for it. And I do think it will kind of be on the node operators and how they want to collaborate as well to come to a consensus on how they want to, give some sort of verification badge that you are who you say you are. You can run multiple projects. Mubashar, like you were saying, you have over 10 different pages going. So it's how do you establish that level of trust and know who's behind it? But then it brings it back to the decentralized aspect where anyone can kind of be on it and you can't be deplatformed. So it does become a really interesting kind of topic there.
Yeah, I think, I was going to say, I think it's interesting with the, thanks a lot. I was going to say, it's interesting with the verification stuff, because that was originally planned to be done at an individual node level. And now I think it's being moved to being part of the blockchain itself. So if you're verified on one node of a network, you could potentially be verified across all of the nodes. And so that kind of leads into that whole question of kind of how do you build that reputation system that works in one community that may not work across all the communities that are on BitClout, but you still need to know who they are and you still need to have reputation across everything as well. And I think in terms of like features and things like that, I think the sort of NFT work may well lead us into the sort of idea of like smart contracts and sort of things like that too, because I think in terms of, how do you build trust and how do you build a reputation? Well, if you've got smart contracts, you almost don't have to in some cases. Like you could build smart contracts that lock up coins for a certain amount of time. You could build smart contract, that introduce trust into the blockchain itself, because people can't do things that you don't want them to be able to do as well. So I think that could be interesting. Lots of challenges and questions about how that would all work and stuff like that as well. But that's one of the reasons I like the Ethereum chain a lot, was this whole idea of smart contracts. So I think I would love to see smart contracts here as well.
Salil, would you like to share something?
Yeah, reputation. I think it's one of the things that we need to work through, right? I think there's too much focus on coin price, and I think it's about the maturity of the network and where we are, and it's almost promoting behavior that's probably not a sustainable behavior, or aligns with what BitClout was envisioned to support. So, and it's not a trivial, I think, challenge, right? I think there'll be lots of attempts at it. It's almost like Google ranking websites, right? In some sense, right? So I think there would be lots of attempts at it. But let's see. I think it's very early. I think a lot of data on the site is new. People are making choices and decisions that they don't know, how it would translate into reputation at this point. And I think over time, as the platform matures, I think, yeah, that is something we all need for sure.
I agree. I was thinking when you guys were speaking, perhaps now that we have the blockchain, so we have, in a sense, we have a common database that is shared among multiple communities. Perhaps what we need is a federation of nodes, so a little bit less aligned with each other, but integrated. Yeah, for example, right? Or
a DAO for node operators. Yeah.
And some sort of protocol that we can all optionally consume from other nodes, and I think that would be a very helpful feature, on a framework level that we could take into concrete implementations for specific communities.
Yeah, I was just talking today with someone that is developing. It is a verification system of sorts, and this is their first attempt at it. But the idea is good. The idea is good because to provide it as a service for node operators, they would have to build the trust in their service, of course. But then node operators could consume that resource for them from them, so they don't have to build a database of a reputation new operators or the existing operators. But keep in mind that for such to work, the reputation now, at least, not reputation, sorry, the verification nowadays, it's given, it is local. So a verification / reputation could be indeed a service provided as a service for node operators that don't want to do themselves. Yeah, definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I think on the reputation piece, right? I think there also needs to be a common definition on how we define a reputed account. I don't know if we have a common definition yet, and I think that's true for lots of metrics right now. Is selling your own coin a good thing or a bad thing, right? How do you think about it? And I think they were almost the team, the dev team made choices which almost forced the hand, right? So initially, I never sold my coin, but I was literally just playing with this. And when you say sell, it says, oh, all your people will find out about it, right? So you kind of take a pause, right? You never get so you're like, okay, so there is an inherent, signaling already. And they've been, these UI design elements part of it, like your coin sell never gets a notification, buys do get notifications, right? So they've been inherent messaging and signaling. But going back to the point, I think there probably will need to be, somewhat of a common definition on what is reputation, because people won't trust the reputation unless they believe the framework. So I think we need to, have a framework where people have faith in it. It won't be perfect. There would be compromises, but I think that's a start.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Guys, before we go to, talking a little bit about like how those features affect societies, I don't know, maybe Alisher, you joined a little bit later, but perhaps you want to add something? We're talking about what are the new features, and we seemed to went into the rabbit hole of the reputation systems. Or perhaps Zach, would you like to share some thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, your federation of nodes kind of got me thinking, Kanchi. Watched a really interesting video by Balaji the other day called The Network State, where he talks about the network as like the next Leviathan. I can see like federations of nodes or nodes themselves becoming so large, so powerful that they almost mimic like a nation state, right? Like imagine a node of Wales that purely has, very, 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 very packed accounts, and all they do is speculate on other nodes or other creators or whatever, right? Like that would be a super powerful thing. Imagine nodes like coming together for social good, where maybe a federation of nodes all donate something to one cause at one time and like makes a huge impact all at once. I really like, I guess, thinking about stuff like that. I'll link the video in the chat for anyone who's interested, but yeah, the possibilities of that kind of thing are huge.
I'm thinking now, because we're like, as much as right now we're talking about, you know, humanity merging with technology and us being cyborgs, you know, us having superpowers by controlling computers, you know, and having, you know, this telepathic speech with virtual presence and all those simple things, but there's more to it. And so if those cyborgs start grouping up and merging together in communities, I think this is the power that we're noticing and we're appreciating, no? Or too much science fiction?
I mean, I think it is an interesting question of, you know, once we do have these distributed entities, at some point they become autonomous and integrated at the same time. They need to exist on their own, but they need to exist in a part of a global network as well. The nodes and communities need to be able to operate in isolation, but you realize that you're not alone in the world. So, you know, how do we interact, one, with ourselves and all the people that we interact with, but then those communities need to interact with other communities as well. So we need to come up with ways of kind of controlling and allowing all of those things to happen. And kind of as software engineers now, that's kind of up to us now almost. Yes, you know, at some point we have to agree on how that stuff should work, but we have to implement that so that it can actually happen as well. I mean, I'm glad that we have the opportunity to kind of make it happen, but it also scares me a little bit. That's quite a big responsibility that we're kind of putting on ourselves here, in terms of, you know, like Zach just said, if there was a node that is as big and powerful as an entire country, you know, as software that operates that node, now you've got a lot of amount of responsibility there as well, in terms of the things that you're enabling to happen as well.
Yeah, very much so.
That's why it must be controlled by a DAO, you know. So people that belong there, they just exercise their vote, and you know, that is sorry, that is the power of the DAO. You know, the people vote and code just executes. There is no, oh, it's better not, you know, I don't think so. No, if it got the votes, it goes in. That's it.
I've heard horror stories about, you know, software firing people from companies, you know, like, and people not being able to stop that process, you know, because there was some glitch in data migration, and you know, the system decided this man doesn't work here, so we're gonna start deleting accounts. And when the accounts start getting deleted, you're losing access very fast. So thankfully the person didn't get locked out in some weird spot, but that was a very interesting case. I don't know, Zopal, what do you think about, you know, all those changes?
No, like, I think you're all making really great points, and Mubashar, you're right. It puts us in a really interesting spot where we're at now, taking into where we're at in the process of getting fully decentralized, understanding that we're all kind of on this one main node, and we're in the spot to build out how all of these other nodes are going to be working independently and cooperating together. And it's providing that space to collaborate. So it is a lot of responsibility on the development community, let's say, on everyone else to kind of build this out ourselves. And how do we create those smart contracts? How do we put in place the protocols on what we vote on? I do think, you know, the basis from a lot of crypto and DeFi, the smart contracts, it's all providing the foundation for us to build it out. How do we really get from this one main central BitClout.com into all of these other nodes? How do we start collaborating more? And that's where I see us building that new reality and pushing it forward. It really is on us, and it puts us in an interesting spot where we do have a lot of power. Brings it back to what Zach said, a lot of responsibility on a main node, and I kind of think BitClout.com has that responsibility now.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, it also
Oh, sure.
makes me a little bit concerned. You know, even the sort of talks that we had earlier about like reputation and verification and things like that, right? Like you said, you know, somebody just got fired because some piece of software said that this person didn't work there anymore. You know, now what happens if somebody's reputation drops below a certain point, like it's, you know, drops from a 30 to a 29, whatever that means? You know, does that mean that person can't get a mortgage anymore? They can't rent a house anymore? You know, like the fact that we're kind of tying reputation into our access to, you know, parts of the blockchain currently, but as the blockchain becomes our world more, and we're taking this technological information that we have and we're applying it to the real world at some point, you know, sort of even little fluctuations like that now could impact people's lives. And yeah, absolutely right, Daniel. Like and I think Salil touched on this earlier as well. We need to have like a common understanding of what all of these things mean, because without a common agreement on what do these things mean, we can't really implement them. Because that's, you know, understanding what language means and understanding what people are saying at the same time, even though they may be using slightly different words and things like that. And especially with, you know, we're a community from all different parts of the world as well. Like we got people from Portugal, you know, we got me in upstate New York, and I'm sure we've got people all over the world here as well.
Hello from Poland.
You're from Poland. So yeah, so we've got, yeah, we even though we share a vision of where BitClout is and could become, how we achieve that and how we talk about that is not the same at all, not just because of our language issues as well.
Definitely. Alisher, I don't know, you're probably on quite a good party, I saw, but maybe you want to share something with us.
Yeah, I'm just listening right now. Actually, I'm on a pagan midsummer celebration for a couple last days. So yeah, it's okay. Very hard actually to switch to all these IT things after fireplaces and songs.
Okay. Happy to have you with us. Anyway, guys. Yeah. Okay, so I think when we're talking about those, you know, changes in the community and those features, I think the key question that we should probably answer, and I've seen this question in the chat quite often, is how do we prevent abuse? What are the features that we should be actually building? You know, like if we're, you know, if we want to be, you know, responsible about it. The talk in the town right now is gamification, but if we try to take it at a little bit wider perspective and we say, okay, so how straight should be the line of the user that is, you know, following some specific scenario? How much elasticity should be the user allowed to do, or to be completely blunt, how many errors do we want to allow the users to make, and where is the line of the freedom and where is the line of the choice, you know? And I think we can all agree that we're not really happy about making that decision pretty much at any time. I'm just sad that we don't have any product designers here with us. Perhaps we have somebody on the crowd.
I would say it's not up to us to limit and control anything. It's not up to us to put any limitations on what people want to do. And if you are referring to the FR games and those kind of things that, you know, I also think they are silly and they bring no value, but I would not say Raj not to do them. I don't care. You know, at some point, well, sorry, I didn't even want to mention anyone. I just slipped because I have nothing against them. We can do whatever. I would never say anything to anyone that they shouldn't be doing that. They should make their own choices, and they will reap their own results. You know, sooner or later. You know, it's. I understand what you mean, because there is one important thing though. Because even though, you know, it's not up to anyone to be responsible for what people are doing, posting and engaging, I do understand that people that have very large followings and big social capital, I would say personally that those people should be responsible. But that's something they themselves should be. It's not up to us to force them. It's up to us to call them out if we want to.
Exactly.
If it makes a difference to us, but control it in a dev way, I don't think we should at all.
I think, and as I said before, I think we all agree here. What I'm trying to raise is more of the concern of the community that is trying to find different solutions to the problem, and I think the community sees that developers, at least in some way, are capable of doing something with regards to the people getting in harm's way, so to speak. And if we look at the security concerns, we oftentimes see that it's not only, there is some element of prevention, right? So we don't have, completely open and unsecure authorization mechanisms, right? We do have something that is not that easily abused. But on the other hand, it is a little bit more complicated, let's say, right? But I'm talking about this type of balance that is essentially making us more secure. And I think, if I can suggest, at least put my opinion on the table here, is that our role, I agree 100%, is not to define those boundaries. Our role is to make sure that good practices and reasonable engineering, assumptions are being followed, and that we can demonstrate a happy path for the users, and users can follow that happy path without many obstacles.
Yeah, it's education, definitely. For me, that's the most important thing. User education, and they have to know what this is, what they are getting into, and it's up to them to make their own mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I agree with Daniel. I think it's a very slippery slope here, right? In some sense, this almost starts getting into the line of censorship, really, right? Like if you're limiting people from doing certain things because you kind of have the dev, tools or the power to limit, but are you calling it limitation? Are you calling it censorship, right? Then again, it's one person's opinion versus another person's opinion, right? So I think that gets very tricky. And at the same time, over long term, I think my opinion is these things are not helpful. This is just my opinion though. But yeah, I think the answer is education, although it's not a simple question, because sometimes these activities, these games do draw people into the platform. People who would not have been on the platform, this is their first taste of BitClout. In the beginning, it's exciting. But what happens then, right? Like if this is how they were oriented to BitClout, no matter what amount of education you do later on, it might be too late. So I think it's a serious question. I don't know if you'll solve it here, but I think this is a serious question because we are a small community right now. A lot more people are coming in. And then there are people who are forming these bridges between BitClout and non-BitClout world. And if one of those bridges is a bridge that we feel is not a safe bridge in, how do we even educate those people, right? So I don't have an answer, but I think it's a very complex issue.
Yeah, no, I think there is things that we can do as a community. I agree with what Daniel said, that we're all adults here. If we want to play games where we're pretending to rug pull or not rug pull or whatever, if we want to play those kind of games, we're all adults. We know that there's real money at stake here now. If we want to play in those games, and if we lose all our money, that's our fault. It's not somebody else's fault if we're playing those kind of games. But on the other hand, I think what the Daniel said in terms of education, I think is key. It's one of the best changes that was made on the platform was that when you create your account for the first time, the founder reward is set to 100%. Right? Like that's a very simple, very smart thing that we can do as a platform to protect people who are signing up to the platform so they can get educated about how the platform works, and then they can make the change to whatever they want. If they want to leave it 100%, that's great. If they want to put it down to 0%, that's fantastic. If they want to put it at 20%, that's fantastic as well. It's up to you. But putting in place these default values that make sense to to give us time to educate people, to give us time to explain to people how things work, and just, you know, having some extra confirmations on the screen, like, are you sure that you want to take this action? I'm not saying that you can't take this action, but just understand what is the effect of this action. I think just doing a few of those kinds of things that just lets people understand the sort of effect of the things that they kind of do, I think is, you know, there's that fine line, but I don't think we should ever stop people doing those things, but we should make them aware of kind of what's happening.
Right. Yeah. And those are really easy fixes. I mean, customizing Suite alerts is very easy, right? So the more we can do that, the better, or the more protected people will be, the more educated at least, right? Like, yeah, taking away freedom isn't cool, but educating is awesome. So that's a great idea. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. And something like the founder award percent, people would see it at 100 and maybe not be educated just yet. And they'll drop it either really low or to whatever before they have the time to really get educated. So yeah, implementing some of these things, you know, wherever you see fit could really help.
Definitely. Guys, I would suggest we do a tiny little break, but not switching off the stream or not anything, but break for our audience that is here with us on the call. Perhaps if somebody wants to ask a question, I think that's a good moment. Please raise your hand and we're gonna ask you to unmute yourself, ask the question, and we'll try to answer it as well as we can. Just please click in reactions, raise your hand, and we'll handle it from there. Marnie, please.
Hi there.
Hello. Hello.
I have a quick question because I'm actually building on top of the BitClout blockchain and integrating it into some software that we're already building. And I do have a question, and maybe this isn't the right place, but maybe you could point me in the right direction. Because as I'm reading through the materials, it's saying that the node operators become an exchange. If the node operators become an exchange, then do we have to get one of those money service businesses licenses? That's kind of my key concern at the moment in running a node.
Thank you very much, Marnie, for this question. Guys, would anybody want to pick it up?
Probably just depends on your local jurisdiction, I would assume. It's going to vary depending on where, I guess, where the computer lives that it's running off of. And that could be like, what if my node is running out of the Cayman Islands or somewhere without restrictions, Isle of Man or something like that? What if I want my node to run there? I can change things too.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry. Go on, sorry.
And I haven't thought about this. This is a very interesting question. Nodes don't confirm every transaction, right? Like nodes in some sense show you what's happening. Nodes in some sense take inputs from you. And they don't always confirm transactions. So I'm just thinking about it, right? Like if that was true, then all these apps where you're buying and selling stocks might be considered an exchange. So I don't know how to think about this. I think, yeah, probably yeah.
I think there are different levels to it. So you can definitely like gracefully adapt the deployment of a node and its features to your local jurisdiction. But ultimately, I think the point about the node being an exchange is more in the fact that you could, if you wanted to, sell BitClout from the node. So I think it might be a little bit more related to that, and in that sense, you will define the prices just like we see on the BitClout.com node right now, that are different from the prices on the blockchain.com exchange. And this comes from the fact that there are additional features that you as an administrator of the node should control, but again, please have developers with you. That will
and I guess just just to clarify there as well, I mean, just because you're running a node, you don't have to offer those particular parts of the offering. Like you can run a node and not allow people to purchase BitClout on that particular node. So I mean, if that's the main concern, then you can just turn that feature off. So you can run a node, you can use the API of the node and access all those parts of the blockchain, but not allow that. So if that's the only concern, then that's an easy one to kind of work around. But yeah, I mean, if there's, I can't imagine any other scenario other than the exchange of BitClout from fiat to BitClout or the other way around at some point. That would absolutely open you up to regulatory issues. But outside of that, I can't really think why running a node would kind of cause any issues, because then that means anybody doing mining of a Bitcoin would be potentially liable for all of those kind of things as well. So I'm not a lawyer, but yeah. So that like I said, that would be really strange.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Okay, so we got another question from. We've had Jesus waiting in the line. Perhaps you would like to add your question now, D3?
Myself?
Yeah. No, it was me. Sorry, Daniel. I know we overlap in name a little bit. I was going to comment quickly on Marnie's question, but I think you guys just answered it. And then for me, it was kind of going back to what I think Salil might have said this a little while ago, but so, like when you guys were talking about reputation, oh, sorry. Daniel kind of mentioned that, there's a project that was the one that me and him discussed a little bit earlier. So it's CVL, so Charlie Victor Lima on BitClout, if you guys want to check it out, CVL. But anyways, the question was more around the comments Salil made around reputation and like us being like, defining it well, what's sort of, I guess, good. I don't want to use the terms good and bad, but what's good in behavior, what's sort of bad behavior, right? And us kind of maybe agreeing to what that might look like. But the question is, what is if we were to publish sort of like, this type of activity is kind of like frowned upon, like let's say bots typically will follow like 1,000 people in 10 minutes kind of thing or whatever it is, right? So this is a metric we're watching out for to determine whether or not this account is a bot or not or whatever. But us listing all of those things, does that give too much information to bad actors, because then they know what to avoid? Maybe they'll pace their bot to like only follow every 15 minutes, for example, or something like that. So how do we find that balance as the question?
I think here an interesting, like just to summarize, so security by obscurity. If we dropped out, how vulnerable are we? And if so, what are the tools that we should have perhaps to defend when we drop that? The curtain drops, the king is naked, everybody sees the data. What should we do? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? Because just to give you like a parallel example, everybody knows that if you deposit, well, not everybody knows, but it's common knowledge that if you deposit more than $10,000 into your bank, the bank has to report that to the IRS, right? So everybody's who's trying to kind of work around that sort of IRS issue is depositing $9,999 instead. So yeah, so knowing what the rules and what the limits are will change people's behavior, right? So I think it's an interesting question in terms of what is acceptable at that point, right? Because the sort of IRS made the choice that $10,000 is like this weird random number that they picked in terms of what's acceptable and kind of what isn't. And so for us, is it if that number's 1,000 people in the first hour that the account is live, if that's acceptable, then if people know what that number is, does it change, right? Like, I mean, just because we know that number is 1,000 it's acceptable and people follow 999, then it's acceptable, right? So whether people are aware of the fact that that's that limit, it shouldn't change whether it's acceptable or not. So I think it's kind of on us to figure out what's acceptable and what's right and what's not. And then, this sort of information has to be out there, I think, in this kind of decentralized world that we want to be a part of. And so if that information is out there, then that information is out there, I think.
Yeah. I think just to follow up very quickly, because before I pass it over to Salil, I think, perhaps we should talk a little bit more about gradients, not just like hard barriers, because when there is a hard border, people start to get confused and start questioning it, and there's this unnecessary discussion, but it's all about the gradient and how many people are crossing it, because there's going to be people manipulating with those barriers anyway. Sally, please.
Yeah, I think a few things come to mind, right? The reason to share a framework, right, and say, okay, these are the somewhere rules that we're looking at, or somewhere, these are the guidelines we're looking at to come up with a reputation, is because people can speak the common language and they believe that the process is fair. They agree with the process, so that when a final score comes out, people who, let's say, have a lower value, they'll by definition, or by, most of the people will disagree with it, right? If you have a lower score and you don't want to talk about it. But at least there is enough transparency in the process, so it gives some legitimacy to that number. And if most people agree with that, it just creates that trust, right? And I think probably these things won't be an absolute. It would be a complete black box. And I also don't think it would be a completely transparent process, right? And the point that was just raised is the reason for that, right? You literally lay out every single thing, then you almost attract people to game the process, right? And you're defeating the purpose of what this whole process was. The process was to come up with a way to actually create reputation. But then if on the flip side, people are like, okay, these are the 7 rules, these are the 8 rules, I need to follow them. People again lose trust in that metric, because they're like, you know what? Yeah, they shared everything, and now it's easy to come up with a high score. So I think it's not an absolute answer. I think most of it probably should be open and shared with people to create that trust, to create that faith in that process. But at some point, there would be parts of it that probably are not open as well. And opening the process not only creates the trust, but it's also, going back to Daniel's point and Mub's point as well, it's also education at that point. In some sense, you're telling people what is a good thing to do and what is not maybe a good thing to do. So it can be part of education also.
Bashar, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes back a little bit to like, if you consider like the sort of speed that you're allowed to drive on the highway, right? Like everybody knows what the speed limit is. Some people push through the speed limit and they go past the speed limit. Some people stay underneath the speed limit. Everybody knows what the rule is. Some people stick to it and some people don't. And so I think as long as we know why the speed limit is what it is, and we accept what the speed limit is, then if you go over the speed limit, then you know that you're going to get a speeding ticket or whatever it is in this particular case. And if you stay underneath it, yes, some people might not agree that 65 is the right speed or 55 is the right speed, but everybody knows what that speed limit is. And so with that education, we've kind of told everybody, this is what the community as a whole has said is what is acceptable. But I do agree with you, Kenshi, as well. It shouldn't be a 0 or a 1 thing, right? Like if the speed limit is 55 and you go 56, that doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden banned from driving ever again because you went over by 1, right? So in terms of having those soft limits and gradients, I think is kind of really important as well.
So I think just trying to move on in our conversation, I don't know if Zopel, Zach, or DJs, or maybe Sally, you guys want to add something just to finalize this topic? Okay.
Thanks, guys. That was really insightful answers. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there was also a question, Nordian, you also had your hand raised. If you would like to ask your question now?
Yeah, no, sorry, man. Well, first of all, just thank you for what you're doing, guys. This is amazing to hear this conversation. I just wanted to make a quick comment about something. You were talking of the security aspect and the buying Bitcoin and all this. You know, Kanshi, we are building this node for the Spanish-speaking community. And me being based in Europe, my concern is the GDPR, for example, and this tricky thing of what's data you are storing or not. As Jesus mentioned, the fact that you cannot erase searching data. And for example, when you open a node and you sign up into an account, an email and a phone number, which is personal data, it's being stored somewhere, right? Of course, the easy way to solve that is what Mushavar said before. Like you can, I assume, take it out and not have it as part.
Oh, Nordan, I think you muted yourself a little bit, but I think we get the question. So the question is, how do we deal with the data concerns? And I'm sure that every single one of you has thought about it already. What do you guys?
I just wanted to say that I think that the simple solution is what Mushabar said before. Like probably that module could be not use it. For example, in my case, I'm not interested to store emails or phone numbers at all. I don't find personally any benefit in that, and that probably will sort it out. But definitely, I'm concerned. For example, regarding GDPR. For example, if I have a node and I'm part of a network, am I responsible, for example, for the data is being stored in that whole network? Because I do have that, I understand my servers, right?
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, well, you can, this goes into disclaimers when people are signing into the node and going in. That's where you have to excuse yourself from responsibility there, because you don't own the blockchain. You cannot stop the blockchain. You are indeed facilitating the access to it. So in some way you could be liable in some aspects, but if you put a disclaimer where it clearly says that you are absolving yourself, it's up to the user, you have to be over 18, you have to, whatever. And in that sense, it's what everybody else does in these kind of projects. And yeah, I would just not keep any personal data at all, like it was mentioned before. And that's it. You wouldn't be liable, I would believe. But hey, I'm not a lawyer at all. You should consult a lawyer just to be sure.
Yeah, I'm in that precise moment of doing that. Thanks, DJ.
Yeah, I think the other interesting aspect of this though as well, part of the part of GDPR and whatever the one from California is called as well is
the CCPA.
Yeah. Part of it is also like understanding what information people have collected about you as well. And so I think that's the other interesting aspect here, is that all the information that people have collected about you is on the blockchain. so I think, that kind of makes part of the problem easier, because there really isn't any private information on the blockchain. It's all public on the blockchain. That's the whole point about it being on the actual chain itself. So although it introduces some issues, because we are collecting some information that potentially some parts of the world don't want us to collect, other parts of the solution are kind of provided for us instead.
Right. I can chime in on that really quick. My company's already actually came up with that exact solution. I didn't have a part in writing it. They were already done with it when I joined, but it's called Penta Privacy Lock. It's made specifically for CCPA compliance, in that organizations with more than like 50,000 users or something like that have to follow these regulations. So it's a blockchain solution to allow them to track all their customer interaction and comply with regulations in a verifiable format that's printed on the blockchain. Everything's there. So I think more products will come out like that, but I think my company is probably the first one to do it, at least in California.
And I guess you cannot get into more details on that because it's proprietary, right?
Well, right. I don't want to talk too much about it. It's still just coming out of like beta. I think we have 3 people testing it right now. but I'll link it in the chat and you guys can check it out on LinkedIn. And we were just finishing up the webpage. They were doing final edits 2 weeks ago. So it should be live pretty soon. But I think they're looking for testers and they're looking for, I mean, not like individual testers, but they're looking for like companies with large user bases to test. So yeah, I can throw a link. You guys can check it out.
Guys, thank you very much for those insightful comments. I think it's also a good moment once we transition from this Q&A part back into the topics that we had, envisioned. The first topic that I wanted to chat with you are like, what do you think are the the key software features, modules, products that people could leverage now, or they should check out? I think this is a good moment for what we call shameless plugs, and and so let me start with one. I hope I picked the right side. Here's the Love4Source. It's a node for community of developers. I would like to invite you all to join the project. It's just Love4SRC on BitClout. We hope to create a community of developers that will be like a front runner in terms of integrating different tools into the front ends, testing them, and perhaps that is gonna make it a little bit easier to create new nodes. Of course, also check out my profile for more projects, but I'll just do again a roundup. So starting with Zopel, perhaps you want to tell us about a cool project or something.
Let me just say one thing before, guys.
Okay.
I do have to go to bed, guys. Yesterday I was up until 5 a.m. Today it's already midnight 20. I'm so sleepy, and I've been loving
okay, you
the
do the pitch now.
conversation.
You do the pitch now.
I have no pitch. I just want to say good night. I want to tell you guys awesome initiative to bring this and allow us to speak, to share our thoughts, and also talk with the community and with everyone. So thank you for this, and I'll catch you guys later.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Daniel.
everything you do. Thank you for everything that you've done over the last few days. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the tactical exit with the with the crowd cheering in the middle of the game.
Exactly. There you go.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
It's
been a pleasure to have you here.
Good night, Daniel.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, Kanchi, I have to bounce too. I have to go to a baseball game, so I don't have a plug right now. Kanchi's helping me kind of figure things out. What?
No, don't worry.
Anyway,
don't worry about it.
I don't have a personal plug right now. I'm trying to work on something with Kanchi, but maybe in a couple months we'll figure something out. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It's a pleasure, honor. Thank you guys. I will check you on the flip side.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if anybody else has to run, or should we continue our conversation? So what do you think? Go on, Zopel.
Yeah, so I don't have anything personally in terms of a project that I wanted to plug, so I don't know if maybe Mubashar or Salil wanted to go first, but I did have something to add in terms of kind of key features on BitClout, stuff for creators and users to succeed. But I feel like I might transition.
Go for it. Okay. Salil?
Yeah, well, I think for a plug, I would say ProsperCloud, right? Like that's my project. That's the only one I'm working on, super passionate. And the goal here is just to, help creators basically get better at their art, right? Learn about, what founder reward works for them based on historical numbers. Just figure out, how do other coin holders view their profile? So that's my project. There are a bunch of things that are in the pipeline with an update coming as soon as tomorrow. So excited about that. But yeah, ProsperCloud is my project and super excited.
Sounds great. Mubashar, would you like to share something? You're on mute.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute myself there for a second. So yeah, I've got, as I said, I've got a long list of projects that I've been working on. You can go to my profile and see kind of a long list of those. But I will take the opportunity to plug something that Jesus, I think, is involved with, even though he's not here anymore, which I think is really an important one. He started that Clout Detectives account recently, which is just kind of helping people figure out like if they're hacked, when they're hacked, you know, all of that kind of stuff, which I think is really an important aspect of kind of what's happening currently on the platform. There's obviously lots of financial incentive for people to kind of attack and kind of target other people on the platform. So I think it's awesome that the sort of community is working to help everybody else out. So I would absolutely have everybody have a look at that. And then I think the only and then the other one that I think I'd also plug, there's one called Dev Audit, which is also starting up, which isn't, I don't think it's live yet either, but this whole idea of we're building all of these software platforms, how do we know as end users that that these software tools that we want to use to interact with the BitClout blockchain are real applications that aren't just going to hack us and take all of our stuff. And so Dev Audit is like an awesome idea that will allow us to get some trust and reputation aspects again, but in the software and the projects that we use on the blockchain.
Thank you very much. Zopel, you wanted to add something too?
Yeah, that sounds good. And I mean, I've been a big fan of ProsperClout for a while, and I think it's, quick look through the audience. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with reading the blockchain and a lot of these using these projects. But as it grows, having more users start to understand how to take a public key and go look up someone's data using a BitClout signal, a BitClout pulse, using insider clout and tracker bots. ProsperClout has a lot of great tools. I know Salil keeps adding more and more. So using just kind of everything that's at our disposal, trying to start understanding everything a little bit more. Personally, I've used a lot of different tracker bots, and not even so much from an investing standpoint, but I'm curious as to what's happening on the platform, where there's a lot of money moving around, what accounts are popping up, just trying to be aware of things like that. And so we're seeing more and more of these projects pop up, but being able to really read the blockchain. I'm seeing Cloud Angel and I'm drawing a blank, BitClout Seek as well popped up yesterday or the day before. So really trying to just get the visibility and out there, allow users to really understand it a lot more. And I can kind of feel that where I'm not quite on the technical level, but I do understand a lot of it, getting it more accessible for the common user.
All right, yeah, I think that's very important, and I think we've been talking about security from so many different angles, but we didn't touch one that is also very important, is that we are now in like innovator space or software innovator space. Some people call it beta, some people call it experiment, but we have for sure plenty of additional modules, additional software extensions, websites, tools that are experimental, for sure. And people are exploring those. It seems to be a common thing to go ahead and check out the tool. Some people are more careful, some people are less. I'm curious if you guys have any advice into how to stay safe when we're exploring those experimental beta features, or how do you do it? From my perspective, I just try to be very conservative and avoid any pretty much changes to the vanilla experience. I know about the desktop app for additional, let's say, security based on the trust to the core developers. How do you guys look at it, and what are your general practices? I would hate to hear your detailed practices. Please don't share those. But what would be the advice that you give to, let's say, a user that is not technical even? How how would you try to keep that person safe?
I think my basic advice would be don't put your seed phrase anywhere. I think that's the start. So depends on when you created your account. There was a sentence that you got, which is called a seed phrase. And that literally, enables you to do both social activity and economic activity on BitClout, right? And anyone who has access to that seed phrase can basically own your account, withdraw funds from your account. And one of the, the downsides right now is, unlike real world where we've all grown up, there's no reset password, right? Even for your banks, you can reset a password. That doesn't happen here. So if your seed phrase is compromised, your literally only bet at that point is, hopefully you are into your account before anyone else is. You create a new account and you're transferring your holdings into the new account. That's mostly the only option at this point. Now, if you created your account, I would say, I think 3rd week of May, after that, you probably have an option to do a Google login or create with the seed phrase. If it's a Google login, I haven't tried it. My account is older account, so I don't know how that works. But I think there might be a little bit more flexibility on, you might have set up a Google password and that might help you. But any site, for example, or any app that asks you for your seed phrase, I would be very cautious just putting it in.
Thank you very much, Sopel.
Yeah, definitely. And BitClout identity has been a big help with that. I know I was personally not adjusting or altering the experience at all too much. And what I was doing was looking to see what other community users, but also a lot of developers were using and what was sort of gaining acceptance, what other people were looking into. So I know I'd been following Paul Burke and his BitClout Plus extension for a little while. Same with Rocco Code and Cloutception. So of course, with everything the last week or so, I had deleted everything, removed it all, and took a deeper look into what was going on. But I kind of felt that I was able to trust what some of the developers in the community were agreeing on. So not necessarily one person putting out a project, but everyone else looking into it and doing their sort of deep dive into it. I was exposing myself to some risk. I know that, so not necessarily the best advice for that, but was trying to sort of see what the general dev community was kind of trusting and using on that.
Yeah, well, Bashar, would you like to add something?
Yeah, no, I was going to echo, kind of what the other guys have said is, keep your seed phrase as private as you can, share it on bitclout.com. I don't really use it kind of anywhere else. If anything wants my seed phrase, I usually turn around and run the other way. I mean, I know, we're obviously early adopters, and so we kind of have to take this kind of risk in terms of trying new things. I mean, what I did a few weeks ago was I just set up a new account, which isn't my primary account, which just has like $2 in it, so really minimal holding. If I want to try a new app that isn't open source, that isn't from somebody I know personally or kind of anything like that, I kind of log in with that account just to kind of see what the features and functionality are, see if it's something I want to use or not. And then until you're really comfortable, until like who's behind it, until how long it's been around for, so all those kind of things, and maybe somebody has done an audit of the actual software as well, so you can kind of get a good sense of kind of how it works and what kind of things it's kind of accessing, and where it's sending information as well. Just stay away from using your primary account and just kind of explore it with these other accounts just to kind of see how it works. And then even if you're hacked, then you lose, a couple of dollars instead of all of your coin holdings instead.
Yeah, and also I would add on top of that it might be wise to use a completely different computer to do that exploration, because some of the tools, especially the ones that we read recently on Bits Today, were problematic in general, not just the account that we were using it for, I guess. Okay, guys, so like following that topic, perhaps we've been talking about different features, but what do you think if we could give an advice to fellow developers watching us now or perhaps in a few weeks? What do you think is a cool low-hanging fruit opportunity for software makers to materialize? Is it an app, a mobile app? We already have one.
We have 3 at least that I know.
Oh yeah,
Flick
okay,
app,
sorry.
Cloudy app, Cloud Feed.
Yeah.
There's one popular,
sorry.
but
I wanted to say we have at least one. Sorry, I wanted to say we have
Yeah.
at least one. Sorry.
Yeah, and I know they've handled a lot of the issues that were coming up, from notifications to messaging, push notifications, and a number of those things.
Yeah.
So you think, is it getting crowded, or is there still low-hanging fruit?
I wouldn't.
I don't think that was. I don't even think that's particularly low-hanging fruit, to be honest with you, because it sounds easy, right? Just to throw together a quick little app, but I think the amount of work that they had to put in to kind of make that is it's a lot harder than you actually understand all of it. So no, I mean I always attack these kind of things is just start using the platform, see what's painful, see what you don't like about the platform right now, and then you solve that one specific issue. That's kind of what I did with a lot of the sort of tools that I built along the way. Was I was having issues with not knowing if I had new messages in my inbox. So I wrote a little tool that emailed me when there was a new message sent to me. So that's typically how I kind of attack these kind of situations, is like actually use the tool, actually use the platform, interact with it, and you will instantly hit on things you're like, I wish I had access to this information here, or I wish I knew what was happening over here. And I think that will give you lots of problems that you can solve almost instantly as well.
Salil, would you like to add something? Any opportunity?
I think Mub's answer is, I don't think I can say it any better. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, like we're nearing, let's say, the last half of our meeting. I'm sure we're gonna want to leave at least 15 minutes for some questions from the audience. I've seen Marnie had at least one question here. So guys, in general, be ready for another Q&A session starting soon. But before that, I was wondering, what do you guys think are the metrics that we should use, or perhaps features that are defining those, supporting those metrics? So we have diamonds, and we started counting diamonds and gauging some sort of behavior based on that. We have the likes, the hearts, but they are not really displayed anywhere in the interface, and they don't seem to surface that much on overall as creators' reputation. But what do you think could be the features that would be supporting, empowering creators, or those metrics? What could be the metrics that we could implement within the BitClout that would be actually something that creators would really appreciate? Is there something left? Did you bump into that topic before?
Yeah, I think that if we were to be able to add comments, in terms of like the number of comments, similar to what you would see on a Facebook thread, and different ways of rearranging them as well, it would be able to potentially help with that. I know that the engagement side of things often is interactions and comments back and forth. People might not want to give out diamonds, or they're limited to one heart, but if they're tagging a lot of friends, or they're going back and forth on something, it could show that there is more kind of interaction with certain profiles or posts, and being able to kind of gauge that right at the top of the post. You're seeing likes, diamonds, comments, you can sort of see how much traction that's gotten already. And then when I just mentioned different ways of sorting it, right now it's sorted by coin price. perhaps, if there's a sort button similar to how on the side we have through BitHunt all the different options on your top 10 list, ways to go about that, maybe people you follow or reverse. I don't know, but I think if we can adjust the post, that could show some improvement.
Yeah, or have like custom charts. So we could say that, okay, so I want to look at, let's say, gainers times, let's say, diamonds, and somewhat related to comments, for example, that happened within a week times or 1 day's time.
Yeah,
that would be very interesting. Salim? Mm-hmm.
So I think so there are a few things that I would love to see on the platform, right? And I think this is less about tactical things, but more about shaping the behavior and almost the DNA of where we want this to go. The one thing is, like, this is for creators, right? And a lot of people are currently focused on creator coin price, which is okay. But the way people are attracting investments is by lowering founder reward, right? And the reason for that is it's easy. And I know I'm going back to founder reward, but I'll close the loop on this. It's easy. It's just one update on your profile page, and your account or your coin becomes attractive very quickly. I think what I would love to see more is people thinking through the value proposition on why someone should buy our coin in the profile section, right? And I think there could be some features that are built around that by the BitClout team or by other devs, right? How do we communicate what's the reason to buy a coin, apart from, a potential speculative future increase, right? What's the value prop? So I think there needs to be tools, or there needs to be a project that helps creators better share their value proposition. And also creators need to spend time thinking about the value proposition and playing less with the founder reward, ideally, right? It's a two side of the same coin, for lack of a better word. So I think that's one piece I would definitely like to see. And also going into the same, behavior and dynamics on BitClout, I think there needs to be a way to highlight, how long do people stay with a coin, right? And there are for a few different reasons, I think. It's good now that we can see, coins that were received versus coins that were purchased, right? But the whole time, or I think there are other ways to also think about the same problem. I think it's a positive metric, right? It showcases that the creator is doing something right if people stay long. It also showcases that the person who's supporting the creator, the coin holder, actually, is not looking to quickly flip. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with day trading, but just people need to know the pattern and behavior, right? So I think there are certain metrics around, supporting the whole purpose of the platform, which is supporting creators. So let's give tools to creators so they can share their value prop. Let's also, highlight metrics potentially natively in bitclout.com, where, which showcases behavior and, helps us identify accounts that are doing something right.
I think before we switch over to Mubashar, we were discussing this topic on several occasions, and I think an interesting conclusion here is also thinking about, levels of FR dependent on the amount of investment. That might be an interesting feature, allowing to separate the day trader purchases from long-term purchases of the coins, and give some more flexibility to the people here. Yeah.
And I'll add one thing. So I think absolutely level of FR based on your current investment on the coin, because obviously the bonding curve goes much faster when the coin price is low, right? So it makes complete sense mathematically. I also feel like, in the future at some point, and Mubs talked about it, about, smart contracts, and maybe that has a role to play here. The founder reward should also probably be dependent on who's looking to buy your coin. If someone is looking to buy your coin with a large investment, will hold for a long time, and has a good pattern, a good, track record, and I'm not going to define what good means, they probably should be able to get a lower founder reward. Whereas if someone, who's constantly trading, they create volatility on your account, which can have second or third degree implications. And I know accounts that have had that. Maybe they have to pay a higher premium. They have to pay a higher founder reward, right? So I think there are lots of things that need to come here. But just to take a step back, I think it goes to value proposition. And I think there's a lot of focus on what creators are doing. I think there should be some little bit accountability on how coin holders are actually, what their pattern is on the platform.
Yeah, so probably like also like staking and like locking perhaps coins on purchase or something like that. Yeah. Mubashar, would you like to share something with us? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think everything that's been mentioned has been great. I mean, I think the thing that's missing for me right now is, we talked about like a reputation score and things like that. I think we also need like an engagement score as well, like, because it's hard to know. Yeah, it's hard to know what content is working, right? If you post something, it gets skewed a little bit, because if it makes it to the global feed, it skews the sort of stats and stuff, because you instantly get way more likes and things like that than you would if it's just shown to your followers at that point as well. But I think at some point you need to kind of have a deeper understanding of what's resonating with the people who are following you, and that's going to be a mixture of how many comments it got, how many likes it got, how many diamonds it got, and also I think more importantly who it got those particularly from, right? Like if somebody's been following you for a year and they liked and they diamonded and they commented on that post, there's a much more likelihood that's a real engagement as well, versus somebody who just followed you, who just liked that post. So think just understanding the sort of quality of the engagement that you're seeing, I think is going to be really interesting, and something that we need to kind of build into the platform. It's going to be hard to match some of the stats that sites like Twitter and Facebook are able to offer you, just because we do live in this decentralized. We don't know where things are being seen and how they're being seen, and what the full true reach is of kind of a lot of the content that we put out there. But I still think we need to do a much better job of helping people who are creating content understand what's actually working on the platform, so that we can then do more of that stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thank you very much for those conversations. We're gonna switch now again into the second Q&A session, and we got a question from Marnie. Marnie, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, I have questions, comments. I love the idea of maybe lengthening the profile, or somebody just said there in the chat about maybe making a tab so that you could create a bigger profile. That would be a way that, people could tell them about the projects that we're working on and things like that. Because I absolutely agree with that. It's very, very difficult. And you end up making different accounts. Like I've got Coach Cloud, and then I've got Cloudily, and, several different ones to explain what I'm doing. I think that's great. A question I do have, the extra fields that are in the posts, is there any way to, like, if I'm sending information from my app through there, and I don't necessarily want people to be able to read that information, is there a way to like encrypt that information, or maybe do I just put a transaction number on my side of that? How might that work as an idea?
Thank you very much for that question. If I understood correctly, or guys, perhaps you want to take it, but if I can add just my 2 cents, I think both approaches are totally doable. So you can encrypt it and upload it in an encrypted form that is not going to be available to the external world, or perhaps until they crack it, or perhaps never. And then you could also just leave a fingerprint and then identifier to which you can relate. But perhaps you guys want to share something more.
Yeah, no, I think either of those approaches would work. It's just a matter of how much information you have, I think, because I think although there's no explicit limit on how big that extra payload can kind of exist for, in terms of how large it is. I think there are implicit limits on kind of how big that is. So if it's small amounts of information, you could absolutely just put it in there and encrypt it. If you think it's going to be kind of large amounts of information, like you couldn't attach you can put an image in there, sort of things like that, then having a fingerprint would make a lot more sense instead. And I think I did want to touch a little bit on just the one thing you mentioned about, this expanding the profile and stuff. I think the sort of preferred way, and I think the easiest way to kind of implement that would just be to have like a pinned post that would be the first post that people see when they land on your profile as well, which would allow you to kind of type kind of almost as much as you want to in especially if you use something like BitClout Plus to have that kind of longer post there, I think, and it would allow you to have a little bit more flexibility about sort of which post you wanted to pin and when you wanted to pin it, and sort of all sorts of stuff like that too. So I think that's a really interesting approach.
Also, perhaps what the post is, right? Like, and not only that. Salil, would you like to follow up on that?
Yeah, no, I think,
much.
Yeah,
I think maybe just putting the identifier in there, because I don't want to impact the other nodes by loading up the chain with a whole bunch of data. So if I just put the identifier in there, it just really doesn't make any difference. It's like a couple characters, and then it's not, impacting the other nodes.
Salil, we lost your video. I'm not sure if that's expected.
It's saying it doesn't. I can't enable it. The host has stopped.
Oh, okay. So maybe
sorry.
Let me
here.
Okay. You can do it now.
I was playing with my iPad and messed up.
Okay, you can do it now. Go ahead.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that question. Perhaps we have, I don't know, are there any more comments, or perhaps we have more questions from...
I was just going to say another temporary stopgap for that could be creating a profile where you have multiple posts sort of explaining everything about you and your projects. So that way you would only need a link to one new kind of profile page name in your bio, and then that could have everything else through that. But again, that'd be a stopgap solution until something like a tab or anything else is implemented.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Any more questions from the room? I don't want to say audience because it's not. It sounds traditional a little bit in the 21st century, like we're in the same place, virtual or not.
If I can just quickly,
Go for
just to ask you quickly your opinion, guys. Like in the future, when several nodes will exist, do you think that should be a connection between people like you guys and the core dev teams to define what features should be core to the whole blockchain and what should be customized for a specific node? Because I'm kind of worried, like I call it like the MySpace effect. Like if we go to a totally customized approach, people might be confused to be, in one node to another. Maybe I have a function and can she have another one, and she will have another one. And that from a user experience point of view might not be good. So I kind of tend to think like there must be a core agreement. Like these are the core features all nodes should share somehow. And then you will have customized features that you are offering to your specific target group, whatever it is. And for that to happen, I kind of see like a communication between the dev community and the core dev team should exist. So what do you think about that?
Let me just give a quick intro. So first we have the cloud improvement process, CIP. I'm not sure if that was, to be honest, I need to get more, look a little bit more at this, but I think that's definitely a good place to start contributing and discussing. The idea is that basically we can define or create documents that outline the changes that we want to apply to different parts of the software infrastructure that builds up BitClout, and we can discuss it in the open as a community, such that later we can, as developers, implement it. Because we also need to remember that right now we have, let's say, one reference implementation of the BitClout backend. We have one reference implementation of the core. We've had already several implementations of the algorithm, of the mining algorithm, right? But we will have more of those. And I think it's a super important question is how do we not only figure out how to add it or how to make the core BitClout developers add something to their software or their line of releases, but how do we maintain community agreement, community consensus among the software for nodes developers to do that. Perhaps an organization by Hunter, sadly he's not here with us today, might be something that is useful here, but how that goes we'll see, because again, this is a global network. This is gonna span multiple jurisdictions. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, so I think the question is, it's a good question, right? And I think that will happen. And I think the project has, the dev team has done a good job, I would say more times than not. I know there were some instances where, people were not happy that the decisions were made unanimously, but overall, I think with how nascent or how early the project is, getting it stood up, having a thriving ecosystem, I think overall, we should give them the credit they deserve. So, but I would say the question that you asked is, it's around the blockchain protocol, right? So think of things like the bonding curve, right? When a coin is bought, how does the price jump or not? So I think that would be shared across nodes, right? So the bonding or the BitClout blockchain protocol, that is shared across different nodes. And I think that should be more of a community-driven thing. After that, I think around features on what people do, you may be actually using a node, you may never know you're using a node, right? If you come to ProsperCloud, it looks completely different than bitclout.com. It doesn't serve the same purpose, but it's actually using a node. But I'm pulling data from the node for different reasons, right? So you would actually end up landing in websites. And I think that would be the success of BitClout. In the future, the success would be that like we use servers that we have no idea which server we are using, AWS or any other server, you would be using part of the infrastructure that is residing on BitClout blockchain, and you're touching it, but you don't know, and you move on. But the core pieces of it, how transactions happen, I think that probably will be on a consensus basis. People will be involved. The CIP that Kanshi mentioned, that process would be implemented.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sopel, would you like to say something?
Salil, that was very well said, and really happy to have you explain it like that. Just to kind of add on to that, yeah, big picture is we're kind of on a Twitter copy right now. So as we're seeing other websites and kind of nodes develop, we will get to that point where it's an Instagram copy, a TikTok copy, something completely native built off of BitClout, a Nacho average kind of call. The possibilities are truly endless, and right now we are somewhat reliant on that core team, and moving forward we'll hopefully be moving away from that.
Sounds great. Mubashar, would you like to add something?
I was going to say that the question itself is kind of interesting, right? Like we've kind of talked about this idea of multiple nodes and people switching between nodes and things like that, but I don't know if that's really going to happen. Like, I don't know if we expect to be able to access multiple nodes and have the same experience on multiple nodes. I don't think we will, right? Like, I think when just kind of like this Hopel said, we're gonna come to the BitClout kind of Instagram kind of thing. We don't expect it to have the same interface. We don't expect it to work exactly the same way. So I think it's an interesting question. Like, do we want to have similar nodes with similar functionality that behave the same way? Or is the idea of BitClout really that we want to be able to customize the experience based on the operator of node saying what they think the experience is supposed to be? And so yeah, that to me is like the sort of interesting part of the question here is not so much how do we coordinate implementation functionality, which I think with the CIPs and everything like that, I think that will be kind of that will kind of work itself out. But I think it's a question from an end user perspective, like, do we even want that? Do we actually need that? And so yeah, so I think it's a really interesting thing. I don't think we understand yet, like, do we want multiple Twitters, or do we want Twitter and Instagram and Facebook all running on top of BitClout itself?
Yeah, where is the limit to those CIPs, right? What should not be decided by the CIP, right? What should be left hanging? So like we were speaking about the limits and barriers for the users, what are the barriers that we put for ourselves? That's
yeah. And that, I mean, that might be a CIP unto itself, right? Like, I mean, like, because ultimately, if we think, I mean, at some point, the CIP will, I mean, I like the fact that they've split the code up into these very simple, you've got the core repository, you've got the backend repository, you've got the front end repository. We've already got these isolated, separated chunks of code in terms of like the CIP. So each one of those code buckets could have its own CIP. So we instantly know that, okay, that's core. That's going to be like the blockchain technology itself. The backend repository, that's the API. We've got the front end, which is more interface stuff. So we instantly know this CIP applies to this part of the infrastructure. We know that this CIP applies to that part of the ecosystem as well. So they're already kind of actually split, which I think is really awesome, because then we can kind of have a say over which parts of the things we kind of want to update and which parts we want to keep isolated away as well.
Thank you very much. So we're nearing the end of our time, but I just wanted to ask one question from myself, and then we're gonna pass it over to Alex to ask a question or add a comment from the organizers. I wanted to ask you guys, and just please, because it's gonna be a very wide topic, so please just try to, be brief. And I think we're all gonna agree that video and voice communication is a thing. Like, it happened in the past 2 years, and it's definitely a social tool that we all need to use. There's a reason why I look this way, and there's a reason why Zopel looks that way, so so how do we like translate those social norms, and how do we use those tools that we're now using off the blockchain? When are we going to see audio video on BitClout natively? And we know how important it is. Other social networks are doing that. We are using it right now. What do you think? Like, how far are we from audio video live through blockchain?
I mean, I can take that because I'm working on it right now. We're basically building club rooms, which is a mix of Zoom and Clubhouse and all of those kind of different technologies that kind of exist out there. But we'll leverage the underlying aspects of the BitClout social chain, like all of the things that you like about BitClout in terms of being able to follow and like people and be able to diamond things and all sorts of that will be an integrated part of what we're building with Clubroom. So absolutely agree that as sort of human beings and individuals, we want to interact with people in a visual and kind of auditory way as well. But we also want to pull in those other aspects of holding coin and being able to kind of leave diamonds and things like that. So I don't want to set a hard schedule on myself, but hopefully we're kind of hoping to start to roll that out to a few early testers in as short as a couple of weeks.
That's great. That's great news. So stay tuned. Salil, would you like to add something about audio video?
Yeah, I think it's important, right? I think the interesting thing is there is more engagement off BitClout, I think, than on BitClout. And the reason is we don't have the tools to support that engagement, right? There's a natural average call. We are here right now. Discord servers are lit up with people talking about BitClout. So I think it's about time, it happens, projects will support it. So yeah, it's just a matter of time. And actually, I'll just add one more thing. I think a lot of people talk a lot about daily actives on BitClout. And in some sense, you know, the number is between 5 and 15,000, right? Like give or take. It fluctuates depending on announcements, depending on where we are, and also how you calculate something, right? That's a common definition piece that I was talking about before. But I think that's one part of the story. I feel there are a lot more people every day talking about BitClout off BitClout, right? So I think in some sense, probably that needs to be added as well. And then the time spent talking about BitClout also. So yeah, I think that's part of the story. And I think once those features appear natively on BitClout or on club rooms or projects like that, I think, you know, we'll see an uptick in engagement for sure.
I think if I understand it right, social networks are more about than just likes and diamonds. There is much more engagement that needs to be reflected on. I think I love that you said that. I've been playing with an idea of somehow trying to represent the ability of a creator to do something, to deliver an NFT or deliver a podcast, or you know, build. Perhaps it's not an artist. Perhaps it's a software developer. Perhaps it's a module that everybody, or a project that everybody likes and appreciates. Right. So there are many different ways that we can demonstrate a specific ability to do something, right, that is valued by the community, and that could be somewhat represented on the blockchain. Definitely. Yeah. So
I think. I was just going to add one. Yeah, sorry, I was going to add one more thing. I think there's another interesting aspect to this, right? One of the reasons I was really attracted to BitClout was that there's this idea that people are all of a sudden using blockchain technology without realizing that they're using blockchain technology. Where we've got the social media platform that people are interacting with all day. They're buying these coins and stuff, but they don't really care that it's crypto, that it's on blockchain. I think for BitClout to succeed and become that mainstream thing, is that there's going to be a whole suite of applications and a whole suite of tools that people are using without realizing that they're using the BitClout chain underneath it. So when we get things like Prism from Hunter and club rooms as well, people don't necessarily need to know that they're using that. All those files, all those images are being stored on BitClout, or that they're using the way that you log in is using their identity service as well. So yeah, this kind of idea of kind of actives and stuff might be a little bit misleading, because a lot of people might not even realize that they're using the platform that we're all on, that kind of we're all kind of excited about as well. So I think that's kind of an interesting wrinkle as well that I think we need to kind of keep in mind is, not everybody needs to understand what kind of how everything works, but the fact that they're on these things and they're kind of active on these things, that I think to me is a really interesting part.
So it's like BitClout is gonna blend into the internet, right? It's gonna be just a feature of the internet rather than some fundamental social network that contains all of the internet inside of it, right? Thank you for sharing that. I didn't see it that way. I think that's a great way to look at it. Sapo, would you like to add something?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to sort of outline it. And then it's how is kind of it all get tied back into your coin price and that central, you're on BitClout. But the user experience will definitely differ based on the different sites or even, phone apps that you're using. So there's some sense of how does it get tied together, but the big picture, yeah, I do see it moving that way. And projects like Prism, like Gem, it's all really exciting for what the future holds. And part of that too, to me, just kind of brings up a lot of the dev work that's being done off chain that maybe we're not aware of. Seeing pages pop up. I know Hunter brought on his friend Chris Lamers, SC, and we're seeing a lot more support being put into some of these projects where we're not really seeing the end results just yet. I know it might take some time to develop, and from a user standpoint, it's, well, how quickly can we just implement this, or why can't this fix just be made? And it will take some time, and then eventually things will start to seem a little bit more seamless, and the integrations will happen a lot easier.
Yeah. So would you like to add something?
I think Mubs and Zopal said it very well.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for amazing.
Let me.
Oh, yeah,
one
for sure.
last question.
Okay, go for it.
I'd like to thank you again. It was very interesting discussion. And I have two questions, one general for everyone and one for Salil personal. So what kind of assessment can you give to BitClout 100 days? What do you want to see in the next 100 days of BitClout?
So allow me, guys, to
a question to all of you, so you can start answering, and then I will ask Salil personally.
Okay, so let me just answer this very quickly. I think what we saw, or like what I see and I appreciate most, is that the engagement level is through the roof, and we're having trouble as software makers to catch up with that. And it's great to have that type of pressure or support, as some would say. On the other hand, the next 100 days or years, hopefully, I think we're gonna see a lot of amazing software projects being delivered, because a lot of them are reaching maturity stage. So it's a very lengthy process to to deliver software tools. And I think after those few months, we're starting to see first amazing examples like BitClout, for example, or like many other apps or sites that show us that future of BitClout. And I'm very excited about it, because I see how it's coming, and also how this community of developers is shaping and building up to deliver on that promise and on that future. Zopal, would you like to share?
Yeah, no, I think you said it really well, how we're going to see a lot of things starting to get delivered and launched. And also a lot more projects being created and get started. There's been a lot of connections and collaborations with people where they'll come across an issue and they'll decide to work together and create a project moving forward. So I think seeing a lot of that collaboration between different developers on BitClout and as things are being launched, people want to join on to different teams. How do you integrate and collaborate? I really think we're going to start to see that pushing out, as well as hopefully, a huge influx of new users to use all these platforms and apps and push things forward.
Okay, so now maybe let's jump to Salil, then go to Mubashar, and then we're going to come back to Salil for the, I hope not too personal, but direct question.
Yeah, I think so. Last 100 days, I think it's been very, very good, right? I think the adoption has been pretty significant. We touched on the daily actives. I feel there's a lot more engagement off platform, which says a lot about it. We are all on a call for 2 hours talking about this, 3 months in, 100 days in. So I think, and a lot of people are spending significant time. There's a lot of, investments. So I think it has a lot of traction for 2 months or 3-month-old project, right? Next 100 days, I personally don't see a crazy uptick in users. I think it will be a slow drip. There are lots of things that need to happen before the users start flowing in, and I think people touched on it. I think it's the tools that need to come and be built around it. And it's not. I don't think it's Diamond Hands and maybe and Lazy Nina's job to build those tools, right? They build the protocol, they build the chain, they build the bonding curve, and they will slowly add these tools. But creator tools, discovery tools, I think that's for the community to build. The one problem, I think, more than even saying there's not daily active engagement or active users, the one problem I do feel is there are more ideas than there are people with the skills to execute on those ideas. And the prime example is Mubs. Poor guy is working on 12 projects, and he's not full-time on BitClout, right? So can you imagine? Right. So people actually still reach out to him with more projects. So I think that's a challenge, right? Like there are very few people who have. There are lots of people with the skills. There are few people with the skills also overlapping, with their interest on BitClout. I think that will increase. So I think that's the biggest concern, if there is one that I have in my mind, right? I hope there are, developers who are on the platform sooner, and I think the the influencers or the celebrities, I think they will come later because they need the creator tools. They need an audience already, right? But the creator tools are built by the developers. So that's my take. I don't think there'll be many changes in the next 100 days. I think it will be a steady uptick. We'll grow on a consistent basis. I don't see it as a rocket ship, and I don't think we're gonna nosedive.
Mubashar?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the first 100 days have just been amazing. Like how fast things have changed, how fast features have been added to the platform. I haven't been on the platform for 100 days yet. I've only been on for 88 days. So yeah, although pretty early. So I think it would actually be helpful and useful. And it just like Halil said, things are maybe going to slow down a little bit, but I think that would be a good thing because it allows us to catch up breath and see where we're at and kind of reassess things. And I think it would be fantastic if in the next 100 days we really thought about how do we ease onboarding, not just for the users on the platform. We want to make onboarding as smooth and easy as we can, but for people like myself and the other people on the panel, the people who are creating things, we need to make it easy for them to learn about the core and the back end and the front end and all the different pieces of the architecture. We've spent weeks and months now, like trying to peer under the hood and try and figure out how everything works. It would be fantastic if we actually thought about developer advocates and developer relationship kind of things that just ease that onboarding so that when somebody new is interested in this platform and they want to start making stuff for it, it's not going to take them weeks and months to kind of figure out how kind of everything works. Like just really expand on that documentation and stuff that will hopefully make it so much easier that if somebody wants to start making stuff, it takes a few hours at most, not like weeks.
Yeah, I think it's basically the topic of ecosystem maturity, right? We need to have several like structural or infrastructural organizational pieces in place before we can effectively start delivering a lot of software features. Yeah, guys, thank you very much. Let's move on to the question from Alex to Salil directly. Alex, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, I would like to add that I'm very grateful for Maps approaching to me like 2 weeks before the forum and suggesting his help to build the website for it. So I'm very grateful for that. It was amazing to have such a feedback just based on the paper that we've prepared. And I'd like to add that we would love to shift Cloud Forum to club rooms if only we have the feature of streaming to YouTube or Twitch. So because your solution is very great, you can use this tips thing and it's more engaging for speakers and for audience to be on club rooms. So if there will be, when we are going to prepare the next event, maybe there will be a feature.
Yeah, it probably won't be in the MVP because it's kind of an advanced feature, but absolutely that's kind of on our kind of long-term plan is to be able to support all of that kind of stuff too. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. And my final question to Salil. So, Salil, what do you think? Is there any opportunity in foreseen future that we can approach MIT alumnus and community to talk about BitClout and make roundtable? So with Cloud Forum, and we'll try to attract maybe some alumnus from other universities as well.
Yeah, no, I think for sure we can definitely talk about this. I would say actually I'm somewhat involved. There is MIT has an accelerator called Delta V. So I'm very involved with that accelerator. That's for startups coming out of MIT. So we can absolutely talk about it. I don't see why not.
Oh, cool. So we'll direct messages or using some Telegram?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything is fine. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for this amazing, inspirational and thoughtful conversation. It was a true pleasure to have you all, and also the other guys who left. Shame on them; they missed half of it. But again, thank you very much.
Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here.